We haven't talked about autonomous vehicles for a while. We've talked a lot about the coming AI revolution, but we have news out of Michigan specifically in terms of autonomous vehicles. Michigan has approved a series of bills which will allow driverless cars with no passengers and with no steering wheels and without passengers to be on public roadways. And this is Governor Rick Snyder, who has signed 4 bills as part of what is being called an autonomous vehicle legislative package, whereas before you could only do testing of the vehicles by manufacturers. He now is joining the primary bill sponsor, Senator Mike Cowell, as well as executives from General Motors and Ford. And as I told you earlier in the year, Pittsburgh has started live tests of driverless Uber taxis. And this is a joint sort of venture with Ford Fusions that are Uber vehicles. They still require having, obviously, a steering wheel and someone sitting, a live driver sitting in the driver's seat, ready to take over if anything happens. But we're seeing legislation expand to many states now. 16 states introduced legislation related to autonomous cars in 2015. 12 states did in 2014. And since 2012, we've seen some kind of autonomous vehicle registration in 34 states and DC. We also saw a few months ago the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration create some guidelines for car makers which talk about sort of frameworks for what should be in autonomous vehicle legislation. There's one bill that, for example, exempts mechanics from damage to vehicles that results from repairs, assuming that they were made with manufacturer guidelines. And this is starting to sort of fill out the lack of coherent law around liability and autonomous vehicles. Who is responsible if an autonomous vehicle does X, Y, or Z? Is it the company that designed the logic that is followed by the autonomous vehicle? Is it the individuals at the company that designed the logic? Very, very unlikely that it would go that way. And this applies to mechanics and repairs and so many other areas. I still find it very funny that we still have people in our audience who will contact me anytime we talk about autonomous cars. This has been happening for years. We've been talking about autonomous cars off and on for years. I get angry emails from people saying, David, it's not happening. It's never going to happen. We're not going to have autonomous cars. At one point, it was sort of being unwilling to see the trends. Now it's just straight up ignoring of reality. There are autonomous vehicles already operating. We have a driverless truck corridor in Nevada in the United States that is being tested with autonomous large transportation vehicles, big rigs as they're often known. It's happening, period. And at this point, to deny the reality, it's sort of like denying the reality that automation is going to kill jobs and pretending like everything's going to remain the same. We would all be so much better off if we accepted the reality and started thinking about the big questions that these new realities will raise. The biggest hurdle, what will be the biggest hurdle for autonomous cars? Will it be human acceptance? Will it be the technological issues that I generally believe are going to be worked out? Is it going to be lobbying groups that are very much against it? Probably some combination of all of these things.